April 18th, 1943, 9:43 a.m. The skies above Bougainville Island. Admiral Isoroku Yamamoto sits in the second seat of a Mitsubishi G4M bomber, gazing out at the jungle canopy below. In exactly 2 minutes, his aircraft will be torn apart by 50 caliber rounds. The man who orchestrated Pearl Harbor, who commanded the most powerful naval force in the Pacific, who studied at Harvard and warned his own government not to wake the American giant, is about to die because of 14 lines of coded text intercepted 5 days earlier. He doesn't know that American pilots have flown 435 miles at wavetop height just to find him. He doesn't know that his own meticulous punctuality has sealed his fate. And he certainly doesn't know that every detail of his travel itinerary, down to the minute, sits decoded on Admiral Chester Nimitz's desk in Pearl Harbor. Yamamoto had survived the Battle of Tsushima, where he lost 2 fingers. He'd commanded fleets, shaped naval aviation doctrine, and changed the nature of warfare itself. But on this morning, American codebreakers would do what the entire US Pacific Fleet could not. This is the story of Operation Vengeance, a story of brilliant cryptanalysis, impossible odds, and a single decision that changed the course of the Pacific War. A story that asks a question we're still debating today: when does killing an enemy commander cross the line from warfare into assassination? 3 years earlier, Yamamoto sits in his office aboard the battleship Nagato, and he's worried. It's 1940, and everyone around him is celebrating Japan's alliance with Germany and Italy, talking about the coming war with America as if it's already won. But Yamamoto knows better. He's lived in America. He studied at Harvard from 1919 to 1921. He served as a naval attaché in Washington, drove across the country, saw the factories, the oil fields, the seemingly endless industrial capacity. While his fellow officers dismiss America as soft and decadent, Yamamoto understands what they're up against. He writes to a colleague, and his words are prophetic. In the first 6 to 12 months of a war with the United States, I will run wild and win victory upon victory. But then, if the war continues after that, I have no expectation of success. He opposes war with America. He argues against it, but he's a military officer, bound by duty. When the government decides on war, Yamamoto knows he has only one chance: strike fast, strike hard, and hope America sues for peace before its industrial might turns the tide. December 7, 1941, Pearl Harbor. Yamamoto's plan unfolds with devastating precision. Japanese carrier aircraft swarm over the American Pacific Fleet like locusts. 8 battleships are damaged or destroyed. Over 2,400 Americans are dead. From a tactical standpoint, it's a masterpiece. But Yamamoto knows the truth immediately. The American aircraft carriers weren't in port. The fuel storage tanks weren't destroyed. And most critically, the American public isn't demoralized. They're enraged. What Yamamoto doesn't know is that his victory at Pearl Harbor has triggered something else. Something hidden in a basement at Pearl Harbor itself. A unit called Station HYPO, a group of cryptanalysts, linguists and intelligence officers who work 18-hour shifts in a damp, windowless room, chain-smoking and drinking coffee, trying to crack Japanese naval codes. Their leader is Commander Joseph Rochefort, a man who wears a smoking jacket and bedroom slippers to work, who sometimes doesn't leave the building for days, whose brilliance is matched only by his stubbornness. The code they're attacking is called JN25. It's a complex cipher that uses a codebook of about 45,000 5-digit numbers, each representing a word, phrase or letter. Then adds another layer by applying mathematical additives to each code group. The Japanese believe it's unbreakable. They're wrong. By early 1942, Rochefort's team could read perhaps 15 to 20% of intercepted messages. It's not much, but it's enough. They start seeing patterns, movement orders, ship names, references to an upcoming operation. The Japanese are planning something big, something at a target they codename AF. Here's where Rochefort's brilliance shows. He suspects AF is Midway Island, but he needs proof, so he devises a trick. Here's Midway send a plain language message, unencrypted, reporting that their water distillation plant has broken down. 2 days later, Station HYPO intercepts a Japanese message. AF is short of water. Bingo. The trap is set. June 4th, 1942. The Battle of Midway. Thanks to Rochefort's intelligence, Admiral Nimitz knows exactly when and where the Japanese will strike. American dive bombers catch 4 Japanese carriers with their aircraft on deck, refueling and rearming. Within 6 minutes, 3 of the 4 carriers are doomed. The 4th follows later that day. It's the most decisive naval engagement since Trafalgar, and Yamamoto's 6-month prediction proves eerily accurate. From this point forward, Japan is on the defensive. The Codebreakers have given America its first major victory in the Pacific. But Yamamoto remains. He's reorganized the combined fleet. He's still the most respected and feared naval commander in the theater. American forces in the South Pacific face brutal fighting in the Solomons, and Yamamoto is directing operations from his headquarters at Rabaul. He visits forward bases to boost morale, inspect facilities, and show his troops that their commander shares their dangers. April 14, 1943. Fleet Radio Unit Pacific. The code-breaking station at Pearl Harbor intercepts message NTF 131755. It's part of Operation Magic, the overall effort to crack Japanese codes. The message is from Yamamoto's headquarters. It's unusually detailed, remarkably specific. The cryptanalysts go to work, and what they decode makes them sit up straight. The message contains Yamamoto's complete itinerary for an inspection tour of bases in the Solomon Islands. He'll leave Rabaul on April 18th at 6 a.m. Tokyo time. He'll fly in a Mitsubishi G4M bomber with an escort of 6 Zero fighters. He'll arrive at Ballet Airfield near Bougainville at 8 a.m., then Buin Airfield at 9:40 a.m., then Shortland Island, then back to Rabaul. The times are precise, the route is clear, and the implications are staggering. The decoded message reaches Admiral Nimitz's intelligence officer, Commander Edwin Layton. Layton takes it to Nimitz immediately. Both men understand what they're holding. This isn't battle intelligence. This is an opportunity to kill the architect of Pearl Harbor himself. But it's also a dilemma. If they act on this information and succeed, the Japanese might realize their codes are broken. They might change their entire communications system. The intelligence advantage that gave America victory at Midway could disappear overnight. Nimitz makes a call that goes all the way to Washington. Secretary of the Navy Frank Knox brings it to President Roosevelt. Roosevelt's response is unambiguous. Get Yamamoto. The decision is made. But the operation itself seems impossible. Here's the problem. Yamamoto will be at Ballet Island near Bougainville. That's 435 miles from the nearest American airfield at Henderson Field on Guadalcanal. Most American fighters don't have that kind of range. But there's one aircraft that might, the Lockheed P-38 Lightning. It's a twin-engine, twin-boom fighter with good range. With extra fuel tanks, it could theoretically make the trip, but it would need to fly the entire distance at wave-top height to avoid radar detection, then climb to intercept, fight, and make the return journey. It's never been attempted. Major John Mitchell, commander of the 339th Fighter Squadron, gets the mission. He handpicks his pilots. 18 P-38s will make the flight. 16 will carry the massive 330-gallon external fuel tanks. 4 aircraft, the killer section, will make the actual attack. Mitchell himself will lead the top cover. Captain Thomas Lamphere and First Lieutenant Rex Barber will be the primary shooters. The mission requires split-second timing. Yamamoto is notoriously punctual. If the P-38s arrive too early, they'll be spotted. Too late, and Yamamoto will already be on the ground. Mitchell plots a route that swings wide to the west, staying over open ocean, then turns east to intercept Yamamoto exactly as his bomber approaches Bougainville. The margin for error is 0. April 18, 1943, 7:00 a.m. Henderson Field, Guadalcanal. 18 P-38s thunder down the runway. It's exactly 1 year after Doolittle's raid on Tokyo, though none of the pilots know this symbolism. They fly in complete radio silence. At 50 feet above the ocean, the heat is brutal. The P-38s have no air conditioning. Inside their cockpits, pilots are soaked in sweat. They fly in formation, watching their fuel gauges, calculating and recalculating whether they'll make it. 3 aircraft develop mechanical problems and turn back. 1 pilot's compass malfunctions. Another has fuel tank issues. Now they're down to 15. The mission is already on a knife edge. 9:35 a.m. Mitchell checks his navigation. They're approaching Bougainville from the south exactly on schedule. Then one of the pilots breaks radio silence with 3 words. Bogies, 11 o'clock. There, ahead and above, 2 green-painted G4M bombers with 6 Zero escorts. Right where they should be. Right when they should be there. The Codebreakers nailed it. Mitchell's voice crackles over the radio. "All right, Tom, go get him. He's your pigeon." The killer section, Lanfear and Barber with their wingmen, jettison their external fuel tanks and light their throttles. The Zeros see them coming and dive to intercept. Everything happens at once. What follows is one of the most controversial 4 minutes in aviation history. Lanfear later claims he shoots down the lead bomber, Yamamoto's aircraft. Barber insists he's the one who hit it. The truth, pieced together from gun camera footage, Japanese records and wreckage analysis, suggests Barber fired the fatal shots. His .50 caliber rounds tear into the bomber's right wing and fuselage. The G4M, nicknamed Betty by Americans and known as the Flying Lighter by its crews because it's so flammable, catches fire immediately. Inside the bomber, Yamamoto is sitting in the second row, right side. The aircraft is hit repeatedly. Flames erupt. The pilot tries to maintain control, but it's hopeless. The Betty rolls left and plunges into the jungle canopy below. It crashes with enormous force, tearing through trees, breaking apart, scattering debris across the rainforest floor. The second bomber also goes down, hit by other P-38s. Several Zeros are destroyed in the dogfight. The remaining Japanese fighters break off. The P-38s, critically low on fuel, turn for home. Mitchell counts his aircraft. One is missing. First Lieutenant Raymond Hine, hit by Zero fire during the initial attack. He won't make it back. But the primary mission is accomplished. April 19, 1943. Morning. A Japanese search and rescue team hacks through the jungle on Bougainville, following the smoke. They find the wreckage of Yamamoto's bomber. The fuselage has been ripped open by the impact and the subsequent fire. And there, still strapped in his seat, thrown clear of the main wreckage, is Admiral Yamamoto. According to the official Japanese report, his body is upright, still belted in. His white-gloved hand still grips the hilt of his ceremonial sword. An autopsy later reveals 2 bullet wounds. One entered below his left shoulder blade and exited from his chest. Another struck his lower jaw. Medical examiners determined the wounds were sustained in the air, not during the crash. Yamamoto likely died within seconds of being hit. He probably never knew what happened. The Japanese military kept Yamamoto's death secret for over a month. They can't admit that their supreme naval commander was killed. It's too devastating for morale. Not until May 21 does Tokyo announce that Admiral Yamamoto died in April while directing operations at the front. They don't mention how. They don't mention Hawaii. They don't mention American fighters. The truth trickles out slowly. When it does, Japan holds a state funeral. Yamamoto's ashes are divided. Some are buried at the Tama Cemetery in Tokyo. Parts are interred at his family temple. The nation mourns. Emperor Hirohito posthumously awards Yamamoto the Grand Order of the Chrysanthemum and promotes him to Fleet Admiral. But no amount of ceremony changes the fundamental reality. Japan's greatest naval strategist is gone, and the Americans killed him deliberately, with premeditation, using intelligence gathered from broken codes. Now the Americans face their own dilemma. They want to celebrate. Yamamoto's death is huge. It's revenge for Pearl Harbor. It proves American reach and capability. But if they celebrate too loudly, the Japanese will figure out how it happened. Station HYPO and the entire magic operation could be compromised, so they sit on it. The story stays classified. The pilots are ordered not to talk. No medals are immediately awarded. Only after the war will the full details emerge. Here's what the death of Yamamoto actually accomplished. Strategically, it removed Japan's most experienced and innovative naval commander. Yamamoto's replacement, Admiral Mainichi Koga, is competent but lacks Yamamoto's aggressive instincts and deep understanding of carrier warfare. Japanese naval operations become more cautious, more defensive. But there's something else. Something psychological. The Japanese military has built an image of invincibility around its leaders. Yamamoto was a living symbol of Japanese naval power. His death shatters that image. If even Yamamoto can be killed, if even the man who planned Pearl Harbor can be shot out of the sky, then maybe Japan isn't invincible. Maybe this war isn't going the way propaganda claims. Morale begins its long, irreversible decline. For American forces in the Pacific, the effect is opposite. The Codebreakers, who made it possible, especially Rochefort's team, have proven their value beyond question. Naval intelligence becomes a cornerstone of Pacific strategy. Every major operation from this point forward uses signals intelligence. The battles of the Philippine Sea, Leyte Gulf, and the submarine campaign against Japanese shipping all benefited from the ability to read enemy communications. But there's a darker question. Was it right? Yamamoto was a military officer in uniform, traveling on official duty in a military aircraft during wartime. Under the laws of war, he's a legitimate target. Every soldier, sailor and airman takes that risk. Generals have been killed in battle throughout history. But this wasn't a battle. This was a targeted killing, based on intelligence. The Americans knew where Yamamoto would be when he'd be there and sent fighters specifically to kill him. Does that cross a line? Some argue it does. They point out that Yamamoto personally opposed war with America. He warned his government about American industrial power. Had he survived, he might have been a voice for earlier peace. His death removed one of the few Japanese leaders who understood the West and might have facilitated negotiations. Others argue that's irrelevant. Yamamoto planned Pearl Harbor. He directed operations that killed thousands of Americans. He was the enemy's senior military commander. Killing him shortened the war and saved lives. It was war, not murder. The controversy extended even to the American pilots. Lanphier and Barber spent decades arguing about who actually shot down Yamamoto's plane. Both men claimed credit. Investigations, gun camera analysis, and forensic examination of the wreckage eventually supported Barber's version. But the dispute became bitter, personal, and never fully resolved. It's a reminder that even in victory, even in missions considered legendary, human ego and ambition complicate the narrative. Then there's the code-breaking angle. The Japanese never realized their codes were broken. They changed communication procedures periodically for routine security reasons, but they never suspected that JN-25 had been compromised as deeply as it had. This is partly luck. The shootdown could have happened for other reasons. Maybe a random patrol spotted the bombers. Maybe someone talked. The Japanese considered these possibilities and apparently believed them. American forces continued reading Japanese naval communications for the rest of the war. That intelligence advantage, purchased partly by Yamamoto's death, paid dividends through 1945. Looking back, Yamamoto's life is full of ironies. He studied in America and admired American culture. He opposed war with America. He accurately predicted Japan couldn't win a prolonged conflict. Yet he planned and executed the attack that guaranteed that prolonged conflict. He revolutionized carrier warfare, then saw his carriers destroyed by the very tactics he pioneered. He died because he insisted on punctuality and routine, virtues that made him predictable. And he was killed by intelligence operations he never knew existed, reading codes he believed were unbreakable. The wreckage of his bomber still lies at the jungle of Bougainville. Over the decades, souvenir hunters have picked it apart, but pieces remain. The site has become a strange kind of shrine, visited by historians and veterans from both nations. Papua New Guinea, which now controls Bougainville, has considered making it a protected memorial. Yamamoto's sword, reportedly recovered from the crash site, disappeared into private collections, and its current location is unknown. For the Codebreakers, Yamamoto's death vindicated years of grueling work. Rochefort, who led Station HYPO through Midway and provided the intelligence that made Operation Vengeance possible, received no immediate recognition. Rivalries in Navy intelligence led to his removal from cryptanalysis and reassignment to a desk job. Not until 1985, 14 years after his death, did Rochefort receive the Distinguished Service Medal for his contributions. The intelligence community often works in shadows, and recognition comes late, if at all. The pilots who flew the mission received credit eventually. Mitchell, who led the flight and executed the precise navigation that made interception possible, received the Navy Cross. Barber and Lanphier both received credit for the shootdown and were awarded medals, though the controversy over who fired the fatal shots persisted for decades. Historians now largely credit Barber, but both men's contributions to one of the most audacious missions of the Pacific War remain significant. Operation Vengeance has been studied, analysed, and debated for over 80 years. Modern military strategists see it as a prototype for targeted killings. The use of intelligence to locate and eliminate enemy leadership has become common in modern warfare. Drone strikes against terrorist leaders use the same basic concept: precise intelligence, surgical strike, decapitation of enemy command. Whether that's progress or something more troubling depends on your perspective. The ethics haven't changed since 1943, just the technology. What's certain is this: Yamamoto's death changed the Pacific War. Not as dramatically as Midway perhaps, but significantly. Japan lost its most capable naval strategist at a time when strategic brilliance might have prolonged the conflict. American forces gained confidence. The intelligence apparatus that enabled the mission continued providing advantages throughout the war, and the legend of Operation Vengeance became proof that even the most powerful, most protected enemy commanders could be reached. So here's the question. Was Operation Vengeance justice, murder, or simply war? Did killing Yamamoto shorten the conflict and save lives, or did it eliminate a potential advocate for peace? The debate continues. What we know for certain is that on April 18, 1943, American codebreakers and fighter pilots accomplished something unprecedented. They reached across 435 miles of ocean, intercepted a bomber carrying Japan's supreme naval commander, and changed the course of history. If you found this story fascinating, drop a comment below. Do you think targeting Yamamoto was justified? Was it revenge for Pearl Harbor or legitimate military strategy? And if you want to hear more about the codebreakers who won the war in the shadows, let me know. These stories deserve to be told. Make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit that notification bell. Next time, we'll look at another operation you've probably never heard of, one that's still classified in parts, that changed everything we thought we knew about intelligence warfare in World War II. Until then, remember, sometimes the greatest victories aren't won on battlefields. They're won in basement rooms by people you never see, reading codes the enemy thinks are unbreakable. That's real power. That's how wars are actually won.